Hello and welcome to another episode of the Family Renewal Podcast. I'm Israel Wayne, and today we're going to be talking about a Christian view of creativity and the arts. I have a friend of mine on the podcast today who is a homeschooled graduate and a father who has been involved in the various levels of the creative arts for quite some time. His name is Daniel Hancock. He's a fellow Michigander. Both of us live in the same state, although kind of on opposite sides of the state. But we have met up at a number of times at different conferences here in the state of Michigan. And I've been impressed with Daniel as a person, but also as someone who I think has a lot of wisdom and is developing increasingly experience in this whole aspect of creative arts. He's been a playwright, screenwriter, and of course, when you're writing scripts for productions, whether they be audio dramas or stage presentations or whatever, you end up having to be editor and a whole bunch of other things as well. And so, Daniel Hancock, welcome to the Family Renewal Podcast.
Thanks for having me, Israel. Great to be here.
So let's try to take this back a little bit in your own personal life and your own journey, because the creative arts are something that obviously God has put on your heart, something that you want to see utilized for the glory of God. When did that first begin in your own life, this interest in that whole aspect of like production and writing stories and scripts and all of that?
Well, when I was really young, probably too young to remember, I was very fascinated with, some of those classic Disney movies and just storytelling. I remember watching Robin Hood, the Fox one, as a kid with my brothers and just really loving the idea of being able to tell stories. I staged plays before I could type, with my siblings and my cousins and friends from the neighborhood. And eventually, tried to get a little bit more serious about it in my early teen years. And actually put together our first play. We had a cast of 14 people, and actually went and staged it for a public audience, mostly family, friends, and extensions of that. But we actually did it. It was my age at 14 and maybe from around there and down. So lots of young kids, some of them, ages 5, 6 years old, all the way up to, early teen. And we put on a passion play. We did the story and lots of costumes, and we built the set all by ourselves. Put it all together. And I actually, for my very first script, before that, I remember having to have the neighbor boy type it for me earlier, to figure out how to do it, because I didn't even know how to do that, but I knew how to write it. I knew what I wanted to do. And so I just started developing it very young. And then, like I say, about beginning of high school, I was able to kind of start to pull it together and connect with a lot of other young people, many from the homeschooling community, some from church, and just the local area that were interested in performing and trying to use their talents for something better than what the school plays were doing, and something better than that. And so this gave us all an opportunity to be very creative, to be able to be in leading roles, to be able to be in the position of properties manager, at age 10, and, everybody got to jump in, technical director here, actors, and everybody was able to kind of find their role on that team, where they wouldn't probably have been able to do that in some of the other contexts. So we really just kind of started it out like that, just more like a group of friends, a club, to put everything together and put those productions on. And each year that we continued to do that, it got bigger and bigger. More and more talented people showed up to be a part of it. And, we increased the level that we were producing the plays at, and began to, do more ambitious projects, and then eventually toured the state of Michigan. And we just kind of kept growing in that way. We moved toward the later high school years. We started to get into more edgy stuff, human videos and things, and participating with youth ministries and things like that. So sometimes it was big plays, dramatic biblical stories. Other times, we were working, with more like, kind of in combination with a worship group, or, that kind of events, those kind of events. And so, just all kinds of different stuff over the years. But the main goal was, like I say, to create a platform and where we could use our talents to glorify God. And so it's been great to watch that kind of develop over the years.
That's encouraging. Not all of my listeners are homeschoolers, but I think the majority are, kind of because of my background. And so I know for a lot of families that homeschool, they may have students who have an interest in acting or singing or writing, whether it's books or screenplays or play, scripts for plays, whatever that may be. And obviously a lot of homeschooled students have gotten into filmmaking. That's been a big thing over the past maybe 15 years or so. For those people who have students like that, I think some of them feel like homeschooling may be a detriment to them because they're not going to have access to the same sort of opportunities, whether it be theater or glee club or whatever that they might get in a government school. What are your thoughts on that? You were homeschooled. You work with a lot of homeschooled students who are interested in performing arts.
Definitely.
What
Yeah.
are your
I mean,
thoughts? Is this going to hamper and hinder a student for life if they have a desire for this kind of work, but they're being homeschooled?
well, I think, in either case, it comes with its own set of challenges. For me, I was an extremely introverted kid, very quiet, and I most likely would not have participated in the public school atmosphere. I would have probably been the guy standing in the background, content to watch. So I think that the homeschooling factor, leaving me free to kind of explore those things and be the one who is instigating the projects, being homeschooled was probably key in that, having that kind of creativity, also being able to divert the type of energy that I did to it over the years would likely not have happened in the government school setting. So yeah, I think that there's that, but then there's other opportunities that you might see, and I have seen those things kind of rise up more as I've been an adult. Like for instance, there's a great the homeschool performing arts program here in Michigan, where a lot of the students who are much younger than me have participated, and they've been able to be involved in big, huge musicals and stuff through that, very much like the sports and such that the homeschool community typically is able to organize. And film programs as well, like you mentioned, I've seen them. I've actually at some of the conferences that we've been at together, they've been present. I've seen them being able to connect with students who are interested in that type of thing. So ultimately, I say if you're really interested in doing it, you will. You'll find a way to do it. And that's kind of what happened with me. Is I was very interested in doing that. I was very interested in making movies. Theater just happened to be the way that I could do it. Right then in the moment, I said, I can stage this play today. I can get these people to come. We can rehearse it. We can put it on. And so I figured out that I could do that well, and I could do it in the moment. So I just started where I could. And I think that a lot of homeschooling students that I've known do tend to have an independent kind of attitude and are willing to try things. And so I think that's necessary with any kind of creative work, any kind of performing arts, is, to be willing to think outside the box, be creative, find ways to do stuff, innovate, and so I've definitely done that myself. And I've seen a lot of other people come up to do that as well. So yeah, homeschooling, I would not say is a detriment at all. I would say seek out those resources. If there is an opportunity for you to participate in something, make sure that you find that out and get involved, and continue to pursue what you're interested in doing.
So another question that comes to my mind is, if you have a homeschooler who wants to get into these kinds of things, but doesn't really know how to go about it, and say mom and dad don't have a background in this, how do you learn, or how do you teach yourself how to know things you don't know? You and I actually had a conversation maybe a year or so ago where I was working on an audio project, and I contacted you because I thought you might have some advice for me, because you just did an audio project, which I want you to talk about soon. And you told me you've had to learn a lot of this as you've gone. Like, you weren't just born knowing it. And so what things have you found helpful just in terms of how to learn your skill? Are there courses you can take online, or are there places you go? Do you recommend people go to college to learn this after they finish? Or is it like YouTube video tutorials now? Like, how do homeschoolers learn this? Or really anybody, but just somebody that doesn't have a professional background already. How do you
Yeah.
start to learn the information to break in?
Yeah, I think I mean the way that I did it and the way that I'd recommend people do it are kind of, that's what I was getting at earlier when we were talking. I was like, it's kind of two different things because, I did it the hard way. I did everything the hard way, but of course, that makes you who you are. And so I kind of am glad sometimes that I learned how to write, how to produce, the hard way, because I know what works and what doesn't because of that. So if you at all possible can do it that way, do it the hard way. Learn it, um, with all the blood, sweat, and tears possible, because you're never going to regret that. You're always going to be able to draw from those experiences of learning things yourself. But with that said, you are, all these young people are living in an age unprecedented, with access to information, like you said, YouTube tutorials, online classes, college programs that you could get involved in to learn this stuff. And I wish I would have done more of that, probably looking back. I got basically what happened with me is like I said, I kind of started out very young, got the program rolling, learned everything the hard way. And then what happened is the group kind of grew with me. And so I got more and more involved in what I was doing and less interested in going out of that to go do education. So, but I would tell people to do it today. I'd say, like go to a film school program of some kind so you can learn technical skills, from people who are already in the industry. If that's available, then yeah, definitely do that. If it's not, you got YouTube, you got, master classes that you can hear from the absolute best in the world for pennies, in comparison to what you would have had to do in the past. So yeah, you got no excuse. Learn whatever you can from wherever you can. That maybe that's my best piece of advice, is just always think of it that way. You can learn from anybody that's been doing this stuff. You can learn something from anywhere. And so I've always done that. I'm still learning every day, expanding every day, finding new stuff. So hopefully that, for all those homeschool families out there, that's one of the traits you're trying to instill in your kids. Anyways, so yeah, expand out, find people, seek out people who are doing it, as mentors, and just keep pursuing it, whatever means possible. That's what I'd say.
So I know that you're a Christian and you endeavor to do your work to the glory of God and with a biblical worldview. I know there are some parents that if they find their child has a proclivity towards the creative arts, it scares them quite a bit, because the performing arts can be exceptionally, for lack of a better word, worldly environment. And so you have just a lot of things that your kids are going to be exposed to if they go to a theater school, for example, or something. I mean, obviously, that can be kind of throwing the sheltered homeschool kid into, a bit of a moral cesspool, so to speak.
For sure.
What are some ways that parents can navigate that? I think there's that fear of even just like the fantasy genre and so forth. It's like a kid has an interest in writing speculative fiction or something, but like, I don't want them to come out as Satanist at the end of this. What are some ways that parents can kind of help guide their students who might be interested in, filmmaking, and they're an Avengers fan or whatever, and the parents
Gotcha,
are going,
yeah.
man, I don't know how comfortable I feel with some of this, or comic books, or you know what I mean, that kind of thing.
Yeah, no,
Video game,
absolutely.
creating video games, whatever.
Yeah, no, I mean, and it's the same struggle no matter what field you go into, but some may be more prone, to those types of challenges than others. Yeah, film industry, theater, they're definitely going to be, you're going to have a lot of worldly ideas and people involved in those industries. You just got to know who you are, know what you want to do. I always was pretty clear about it in my own mind, what I was trying to do with my talents, what I wanted to say. Writers and creators, they tend to have something to say, so if a student is coming up saying something, like, I want to get involved, I want to make the next Avengers movie, or I want to do the next, fantasy epic, or I want to, get involved in this theater program. Typically they know, they feel like this is a way for them to be able to express who they are, what they're trying to say, what they have to offer the world. I mean, when you think about creative arts, performing arts in general, all of that, it's so much expression. It's so much of a way of us being able to communicate, our ideas, our beliefs, our the truth that we have understood in the world, and being able to convey that to somebody else. That's the challenge. Being able to share what I have in me with you. How do you do that? And so there's so many different ways to achieve that, whether it be through music or through art or through acting. Any of these, you can kind of communicate that, definitely through writing. So with that in mind, don't be concerned about what, parents, don't be concerned about the fact that your kid wants to write the next Tolkien book, or the next, big Hollywood movie, because truth is, either they are who they are or they're not, and so if you've done the work and you've made sure to build them up and make them who they're going to be, if you've been a full-time parent, gotcha, right, then you don't have anything to worry about, because and if you're worried about this, then you really should try to maybe refocus on the other issues, the real issues, the personal relationship that you have with them, the worldview questions that might need to be re-examined. Those would be the areas I'd worry about, not what they choose to go into, because if they've got a strong view, they got, if their faith is solid and they know who they are, then it won't matter what they go into or what they get thrown at them in that industry. It hasn't for me, at least, so, but I have, I didn't go to theater school, but we had several team members who did. They got put in positions where they were told they had to perform roles that were in contradiction with their faith, in productions that just didn't have any real value in their view, and there were times where some of them said, I will, I'll tolerate this to a point, and I can kind of find a way to be able to balance this enough to where I can still do it. And other times where they walked in and said, I will not participate in this. And I've seen people's grades get held over their heads and the whole thing. So but ultimately they can't do that to you, so you can stand your ground. But I would say learn what you can from these places, learn what you can from the people involved, and not everybody's going to be like that. And like we said too, if you're really worried about it, and it is increasingly a problem, I would imagine, for young people, there are more and more Christian programs. There are more and more solid, worldview, opportunities where they can go to places where that's not necessarily going to be as prevalent. So, but yeah, in general though, know who you are, know what you believe, and be ready to say that, and you won't have too much trouble.
That's great advice. I appreciate your insight on that. So one of the projects that you're best known for is an audio drama that you created that's based on biblical narrative. That's pretty epic as an audio production. Tell us about that project.
Sure. Yeah, I'm kind of excited. Just today, a couple days ago here, we finally got our last streaming platform up and going on Audible. So it's available there now, and iTunes and Google Play and all these other places. So it's kind of cool to see that happening. But yeah, we put it out in the beginning of 2020, and Easter weekend there, we were able to put that together. It's a full cast audio drama, 50 voice actors, original score, full cinematic style sound effects, and the whole bit. And we did the entire gospel story. So we did our own kind of composite of the 4 gospels, and then kind of came up with a very unique and interesting way of kind of telling the story. I wrote this years ago as a stage play, and then we adapted it still years ago as an audio drama. And then we recorded it all. We did it all independently, and the whole thing was done as a ministry project. Everybody volunteered on it. And so it's just this massive project. We recorded the original score with, and actually worked with the Homeschool Music Association here in Michigan to record some of that. So they're all in there too. 150 participants overall for the whole project. And so it's a wonderful project to have been, able to see come together, and just to work with so many great people on it too. So yeah, I don't know. What do we want to talk about?
You have a picture of it? Do you have a
yeah,
copy
sure.
of it here? We can look at.
Yeah, we've got this is End of Darkness. This is the 3-disc set, but it's available digitally, like I said, Audible, iTunes, Google Play, and then we have a MP3 download at BibleActors.com. This comes with it's 3 discs like these here. You can see those. There's the guys on the road to Emmaus, and then we've got at the other side here. It's beautifully done too with the quality of the product here. You can see the disciples being called there, and the crucifixion sequence there is happening. And it comes with an insert that's 40 fully dramatized photos from the story.
It's
So you
amazing.
get, that kind of goes along. Each of these pictures kind of coincides with a moment in the audio experience. So you can kind of have an idea with so many cast of characters, such a large cast of characters we had. I mean, these are just the lead few. It made it a little bit nice to have some faces to go with the multiple voices that you're hearing inside of there. So yeah, it's been a very exciting project. As far as the writing aspect goes, I really am pleased with how it came out. We've got we started out in the night that Jesus has been crucified. It begins in the thunderstorm and the storm after that, and all the disciples are in the upper room, struggling with their doubts and the fear and literally, trying to figure out how they're going to survive the night. And so we kind of start there and then are able to take that unique perspective of the people who didn't know how this was going to turn out, and then look backwards into the story as they begin to flash back and see the life of Christ and all the significant things that happened throughout. And then we kind of catch back up to ourselves again at the end. So it's kind of a little bit, we're shifting the timeline around a little. It starts in unexpected places and kind of gives us a chance to see things through a new perspective, a new set of eyes. So it's pretty exciting.
So this is End of Darkness. Did you say it was BibleActors.com is the website?
Yep, BibleActors.com. Yep, and you can get the CD set there, and everything's linked, so you can download it right now if you want to listen to it now. And but yeah, I recommend the CDs. You can get those and see the beautiful images and everything that come along with it. But you can download the digital PDF of all the pictures and stuff as well.
Awesome.
And it's crystal clear, full quality audio. If you wear your headphones, you're going to be able to hear the people moving around you left and right, everything's happening. And then of course, like in the car speakers or something like that on a road trip, this is going to be, it's not an audio book. Like, so that's something that I guess I should probably bring up, is that it's not an audio book. It's not the Bible on tape, there's so many of those already out there and they're great. We've listened to Max McLean do the New Testament recently. It's just wonderful to hear the whole thing kind of read out loud, but that's not what this is. This is more like a film, more like like you're there. We tried to create it in such a way that you're like a fly on the wall, in the scenes. You're there yourself, so you're hearing everything that's happening, and there's no narration. So that's the thing. We have like an opening narrator for like a couple of sentences at the beginning and the end, that kind of bookends it. But there's no narration in this, which is unique too. Even among audio dramas, a lot of times they'll break away to a narrator to kind of fill in the gaps. And the way that we did it was, in order to not break that illusion, the experience of being there, everything is based on the sound design. So all the narration takes place through the audio that you're hearing. So we had to be very strategic about what you're hearing, so that you don't need to hear from a narrator. So you actually literally can experience it like you're standing there. So pretty fun.
Well, man, I regret we're almost out of time, which is terrible because we have so much to talk about. But can you quickly just tell us about a couple other resources that might be of interest? And most importantly, let's just do this now so that we don't lose time. Where can people get a hold of you? Where can they connect with you on social media, your website? Give us those things first.
Absolutely. BibleActors.com is where you can find everything that we're working on. And then for myself, I'm on Facebook a lot. You can find my personal profile on there, but I have a director page as well. I think it's Director Daniel Hancock is the handle, and then Twitter and Instagram as well. I'm pretty findable, I believe, and LinkedIn and stuff like that. So all of those, I'm available. And feel free to write in. We'd love to have you check out the projects that we're doing. We'd love to hear about your thoughts on them, what you liked, disliked about them. We're always trying to improve and do more stuff like this one. This just came in today. This is the hardcover of the first 2 chapters of my comic book that I'm working on this year. And so here, I'll give you the other view. You can see this is this wonderful sci-fi story, Dominion, Fall of the House of Saul. And this is based on the book of 1 Samuel, but as you can see, it's highly adapted and very loosely inspired by it, but definitely kind of follows the mold of the story of Saul and Jonathan and David and dare I say, Goliath in coming issues. So it's coming along, but yeah, it definitely has the heart of the story in there. So it kind of takes that and we run with it in kind of that sci-fi Star Wars Avengers type world. So
Yes.
if you got kids who are interested in any of those types of products, this is going to have that solid biblical worldview, but definitely story first. It's going to be enjoyable for anybody, any age, and the writing is not such that it's geared specifically to children. You'll enjoy it yourself if you want to read it, because it's, we're definitely taking that story as seriously as possible and trying to really make sure that it's relatable and understandable, and hopefully it'll increase people's interest in reading the biblical story itself, and kind of go, wait a minute, that really happened? Yeah, it did. Go back and read your Bible a little more, buddy, and find out all the interesting stuff that happened, in those Old Testament stories. And, we're just kind of weaving the gospel in there as well. So yeah, I'd encourage you to check out that series. And then I'm also working on another comic book. It's actually just out right now. We're shipping out books. It's called Samson Rise. And that one's for older, mature teens, with the Delilah themes and the, noble suicide and all that stuff. We don't really recommend it for the children, but yeah, if you got more mature teens, this is done by two incredibly talented former Disney artists from Australia who I'm working with, and they've done a beautiful job of updating the Samson story. Just the visuals are incredible, and we really kind of did a deep dive and kind of mining for gold for what Samson was going through, and just the whole arc of repentance and redemption that you can see in that story as well. So those are both going on, and lots of other cool projects. But just follow me on Facebook. I'd love for you guys to come and say hi, and if you have any more questions along these lines, or anybody who's interested in performing arts of any kind, I would love to talk with you and maybe point you in the direction of some good resources, or maybe answer any questions. And of course, I offer my services as a script consultant and a screenwriter. So I'm doing a lot of that these days as well. So if anybody wants to take the level of Christian art and up a notch, let's do it. It needs to happen. So let's make it happen.
Well, Daniel, I appreciate you as a friend, as a brother, and I'm grateful for what you're doing in the creative arts world for the glory of Christ. I encourage everybody to connect with you for their family. Professionally, you'd be a great person to work with for any kind of film project or creative project. So keep me posted on what you're up to, and we'll have you back on the podcast and you can talk about it and tell people about the new stuff.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. God bless.